Welcome to Writer Syndrome, podcast about writing from start to finish. This episode, the writing is on the wall.
Oh, idiom number 2.
Yeah. I'm Russ, and that's Tim. Tim, because I always ask, how are you? You're drinking your coffee, drinking your tea?
I'm drinking my green tea.
Green tea. Get your green tea.
I read the writing on the wall.
I was going to say, not really a trick question, but how is your Bible studies?
Not bad. I've read the Bible 1.5 times.
1.5? 1.5. Yeah.
Because it got a little boring the second time. And then
a little tedious.
I took a class in grad school called The Bible as Literature.
Oh.
No offense to all those true believers out there, but it was interesting to read it through the lens of it being a fictional narrative.
Yeah.
Not a historical account.
Like a historical fiction, maybe.
Yeah.
Like some people are real. Some
creative
things,
non-fiction, science fiction.
Yeah. We probably just lost a lot of listeners who are like, the Bible. That's the best book ever written. I don't even know if I ever finished it. So, but.
My takeaway is it starts strong, and then there's far too many writers.
Yeah, far too many editors who kind of have their notes like, we should put.
Once Jesus comes in, is where it kind of loses me. It was kind of like a little Deus Ex Machina, you know.
We need this apocalypse to be bigger. I'm thinking grander. Multiple times.
Yeah. Now I'm a big, honestly, like in all seriousness, I really like the Old Testament.
Okay.
The New Testament is kind of like the fourth Soundgarden album, you know? It's too self-aware, you know? You become too successful as a religion.
Some of it you still kind of like because you're like, oh, there's the band I liked, but it's like,
yeah, there it is. Oh, there's the vengeful God. Oh, wait, hold on.
No.
He's breaking loaves again.
Breaking loaves. I'm on the opposite end. I don't think I've ever finished it. I've definitely read passages of it. I definitely went to some Catholic schools as a kid, but yeah, it wasn't my bag. So
I talk to my kids about it. I feel like it is a really important book to read just because of how pervasive some of the stories are in our pop culture, and not just like, Gandalf's
Absolutely.
Jesus Christ pose, but like there's just so many moments in books and movies that are directly referential to Bible stories that you miss if you're not part of it.
Matrix.
Oh God, jeez. Thank God there's no copyright on that thing, because they would be suing. God would be suing us. Actually, he might be suing. That might be what this is. He might be getting sued.
That's the actual apocalypse. That's his reign.
We fucked with his IP.
He's basically Disney.
He's Disney. But why are we talking about the Bible, Russ?
Because the writing is on the wall, and that is an idiom that came from the Bible. I'm sure one of many, which maybe we'll get to in our existence.
We should have said that sooner, before everybody turned off the podcast.
Well, he did say the writing is on the wall, so to open it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a hint. So
before we started doing research, I didn't know that it originated from a Bible story.
I didn't either. I'll be honest. I did not know that. So, but then once you read it, you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's one of those. Okay, cool story, bro. So writing on the wall. We kind of all know what that means, but let's give the old.
I think I was wrong. I think I was using it incorrectly. So tell me what it means.
Okay. It's a popular idiomatic expression referring to the foreshadowing of any impending doom, misfortune, or end. Ooh.
So I was using it as it's clear as day. So not necessarily that it, foretold something, like something bad was going to happen. I thought it was just meant something was very obvious. Not that it's very obvious that bad stuff's going to happen.
Yeah, it's writing on the wall, which is, inferring impending doom. So, but a person who does not or refuses to, quote, see the writing on the wall is being described as ignorant of the signs of a cataclysmic event that will likely occur soon.
Yeah, so it's like the movie Don't Look Up, or our current political landscape.
We just lost all of the listeners.
Hey, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth.
Yeah, he's right.
So many idioms.
So yeah, that's the definition of writing on the wall. So now the short answer of where did this one come from, we've kind of already alluded to. We've given the foreshadowing. It's from a Bible story based on the story of Belshazzar's feast in the book of Daniel. So
how'd that feast go? Good?
No. I'm going to say not really for him, because the writing was on the wall, but he kind of got it, but didn't really get it,
Okay. So what happened?
All right, so I'll give like kind of like the full thing here, right? So it's chapter 5 in the book of Daniel. Tells how Neo-Babylonian royal Belshazzar holds a great feast, right?
Yeah.
With all of his buddies. They all get together. He's like, let's start drinking. Let's get wasted. Let's have a good time.
Love it.
Right?
Love it.
And they start drinking from the vessels that had been looted in the destruction of the first temple, which, rude.
Oh, bad idea.
Yeah, I don't think you...
So they destroy a temple, I'm guessing...
Yeah, and then they come in.
God is not happy that temple was destroyed.
We'll get there. Okay. So then, this is a short form of this. So then a hand appears and writes on the wall. And the terrified Belshazzar calls for his wise men, the Chaldean wise men, who are not all that wise. They can't figure it out. They can't read the writing on the wall.
They're like the Doge committee.
Even more unsubscribed. Then the queen is like, hey, why don't you call for Daniel? This guy, he's pretty dope. He's pretty, from what I hear, he's kind of cool.
Okay.
So they send for Daniel because he's renowned for his wisdom. He knows his shit.
Smart guy.
Smart guy. So he reminds Belshazzar that his father, Nebuchadnezzar, is that a ship in Star Trek? When he became...
So it's actually back to the Matrix. It's the ship in the Matrix.
So when he became arrogant, was thrown down until he learned that God has sovereignty over the kingdom of men. See Daniel 4. Belshazzar had likewise blasphemed God, and so God sent his hand. Daniel then reads the message and interprets it. God has numbered Belshazzar's days. He has been weighed and found wanting, and his kingdom will be given to the, I think it's Medes and Persians.
So
that's kind of the quick and out. So
first off, God does graffiti, which is wacky. I wouldn't expect that.
At a party, nonetheless.
At a party.
Doesn't even show up.
He can just send this disembodied hand around to do things?
I mean, come on.
Does this hand make an appearance again anywhere in the Bible? I should know.
Tim, it's the hand of God.
But it's a small hand, right?
I don't know. He's just writing on walls. He's doing graffiti.
I mean, usually he sends the angels down to do stuff. So anyway, God's hand, he does his little tag.
Yep. And there's writing on the wall. So,
and he doesn't listen to it, and he dies.
Yes. So the whole lesson is that his Belshazzar's father. So there's a lot of historical. Not sure what's real, what's correct here in the stories, but I'm not going to get into it because I went down a rabbit hole that I was like, this is Bible studies. I'm not going this far.
Yeah, I like reading back like to ancient theologians being like, this guy didn't even exist.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to take up that, but it's interesting that there was so much back and forth that he wasn't even really the king. And they're saying, well, he's really, representative of a different king with a different name.
Right. But then there's some people saying he was real. So
sure. Yeah.
I'll leave that to the historians to get into. We're just here for the fun stuff. So
we're here for the fun.
So basically it was a lesson. It was a lesson of like, hey, the Nezer there, he was humbled by God. And then Belshazzar comes in and he learns nothing from that example previously, is from his father, and drinking from the cups, the vessels. Come on, man, you can't be doing that.
I mean, shouldn't God have warned him sooner? You can't say, "Hey, I don't like what you're doing," and then you only get 24 hours. And
he did. He should have been learning the lessons from his father. I think that's the story that they're trying to make here.
My takeaway is that God's way too sensitive.
he's way too sensitive.
Yeah, he's got thin skin.
I mean, basically what happened was a bunch of people just got drunk. They had a party. They drank from mom's fancy china vessels, right?
Yeah.
And then they were talking shit about someone who wasn't, you know what I mean? And then he's like, hey, all right.
And they looted those from grandma's house.
Yeah, they looted from grandma's house. And they started talking shit about, someone who wasn't even at the party.
Seems like an overreaction on God's part. Just saying. Anyway.
I don't disagree.
It's funny. I'm not learning the lesson from the writing on the wall.
You're not.
Could portend doom.
That's right.
So I take it back. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that's the kind of the short of it. Do you want to get into the fun? I mean, this is going to get heavy into what Daniel, how he interpreted the message that was actually on the wall that these.
Yeah. I glanced at it. It was a little too linguistical for me, but if you got it, I'd love to hear it.
I'll go through what happened here, and then we can kind of decipher it ourselves. We'll put it into plain old English for ourselves, right? Layman's terms. We'll try to put it in layman's terms, basically. I mean, I kind of said it already in the beginning, but so the words that were written on the wall were Mene Mene Tekel Upharsin. If I pronounce any of that incorrectly, my fault. I apologize. So now Daniel comes in, and he sees these, and he's like, he kind of does a little, reads between the lines, another idiom here, and kind of figures out the code a little bit, right? He reads it by supplying vowels in two different ways. So first, the words are read as nouns. Then as verbs. The nouns are monetary weights, a mene equivalent to a Jewish, is it mina, or 60 shekels. Tekel is equivalent to a shekel, and in a farson, there's other ways of saying this, meaning half pieces. So the last involves a wordplay in the name of the Persians, suggesting that not only that they're going to inherit Belshazzar's kingdom, but they are two peoples, Medes and the Persians. So then he interprets the words as verbs based on their roots, really digs into it. Mene is interpreted as meaning numbered, tekel from a root meaning to weigh, as meaning weighted. Upfarson is a singular form of farson, from a root meaning to divide. So that's a separation of his kingdom, and he's going to lose everything. So
okay,
yeah. So
not only is God sensitive, but he writes in riddles.
You gotta keep him on their toes.
Not a great boss.
You can't just be like, dude, what are you doing?
The micromanager who speaks in code.
Yeah, put the vessels away. Learn a lesson from your dad. And by the way, you're losing everything. So
yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of
that's interesting. I feel like that was way above my head.
Way above your head?
I don't. Yeah. I mean, yeah. My wife is very good with linguistics. I am not. I'm fine with the English language.
Yeah, and there's some other things here about how Daniel was brought in, and I think Belshazzar wanted him as his like third in rank of the kingdom. And I think at first he kind of declines that, but he still shows up to the party to help out, solve this puzzle. And then I think he ends up becoming the third in rank in the kingdom, which is, which then if he's third in rank in the kingdom, and then Belshazzar dies by the way, he dies that evening. Then that all of a sudden makes Daniel second in line, right?
Yeah, I guess so. And so what's happened? So
I don't know.
In actual history, the kingdom falls to the Persians. Is that right?
Yes, but yeah, you're stepping into waters that I'm not even going to dive into because I don't know all the.
Well, let me get back to inoffensive waters. The book of Daniel, written by Daniel, has a story about how Daniel is awesome and he's the smartest guy in the kingdom. Oh Come on, Daniel. You're not supposed to write about yourself.
No, an autobiography about how awesome
you write what you know, but you can't say. You can't self-aggrandize so much that now you're number 2 in the kingdom.
Yeah, he knows himself in some wordplay. Come on.
He was just some basement dweller, writing fan fiction.
Wasn't his books all about like the apocalypse and stuff like that, or I don't know.
Oh, where was it?
A little bit. Or one of them. I don't know. I don't know how many there were. So
yeah, they're not the Beatles.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. So now going a step further here. So that's the history of it. That's it. That's where writing on the wall came from. Good old.
I feel like I learned a lot, and now I know to use it properly. It can portend doom.
Yeah. So now there's 2 other fun things. So Rembrandt has a painting of Belshazzar's feast.
Oh, cool.
Around 1638. And his painting is based on his only source, for painting it was from the Bible. So obviously, because everyone's like, we don't know if this guy's real or not, whatever. So you can see that painting on the old internets if you'd like to go look for it.
Does the hand make an appearance, or is
the
hand?
Right? No, the hand's there. It's like there, and it's like.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh wow, cool.
It's in the background. Yeah, and it's just like, and Belshazzar is just like, whoa, what's going on? And everyone's like spilling their wine out of their sweet ass vessels, and it's in London. It's in the National Gallery of London. If you like, check it out.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then one of the earliest known uses of the phrase in English now was by a Captain L. Brinkmare in 1638, which is funny. That's the same time as Rembrandt did the painting. Is that right? That sounds about right. 1635, it looks like, for the painting. But
look at that. That is a tiny hand of God. I don't know.
Tiny hands?
Tiny hands.
So the captain...
What's the phrase? Tiny hands make light work?
Makes for a terrible partner to...
have a podcast with?
Dig a hole. You can do with those tiny hands. So the captain's use here, Brinkmare in 1638, he wrote a report of, quote, the warnings of Germany during the 30 Years' War, cautioned that the violence there could soon spill over to England. And that's where he used the phrase, writings on the wall. So,
and what year was that?
1638, from what I gather. I couldn't find anything else about this Captain Brinkmare, but don't ask me more history questions about that, because then that's a whole other... We're turning into a history podcast at that point, which I did okay. I passed.
Yeah, you did great. I learned a lot.
Long story short, the real lesson here is don't get drunk. Don't have a party. Don't get wasted. Yeah. Don't use mom's fancy glassware and then start talking shit about someone who's not there.
I love that during our episodes about idioms, we use so many idioms.
Oh, yeah.
They're just filled with them. Yeah. I don't know if I'm just more aware or if we like to speak more in riddles during these very special idiom episodes.
I think we just do it. I think we're men of words. I was gonna say master, but that's like Daniel being like, dude, I'm pretty good at solving things.
Daniel.
And write a whole book about himself and being like, whatever.
And then they came to me, the smartest man in the community.
In all of the land.
In all of Babylon.
Oh, was your Chaldean wise men couldn't solve this? Whoa. Step aside. So there you go. That's the writing is on the wall for you. So
love it.
Any questions about that I can't answer?
No. I think we got to the bottom of it.
Oh, so that's it. That's the idiom. So very lovely episode. What have you been reading, watching? What have you been reading, watching, writing?
I'm reading this book. It's a rip-roaring page-turner. It's called Host by Russ Capasso.
Jeez. I didn't pay you, so.
You didn't pay me. So I'm reading Russ's book for the second time.
3 stars now?
I read it, no, reducing it.
Yeah.
Well, I never got through the fully edited final version. You know, I read your beta and I read a little bit of when it was released, but I never plowed through it all again. And I'm impressed, man. It cooks. It is a fun book.
Thank you. You're also doing a little bit of homework for me, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm doing homework to make sure that you're not accidentally making contradictions between things things you've introduced with certain characters.
And it's funny because you had mentioned one, and I completely forgot I put it in there. I mean, it was part of my list of things to do was to go back through because the next book is going to focus on Lilo quite a bit. It was to go back through all those chapters and double check that I'm not stepping on my own toes.
And I love that like you're staying in the world, but all your books can be read independently of one another.
That's the plan.
I think that's a good approach. But in the same respect, if those want to read more than one, you don't want to have contradictions across them.
Yeah, and these events are going to be happening in the background that will impact them and or may play a part. But
so yeah, I'm reading Host, which is great.
Appreciate
and
that.
I watched the new Daredevil show.
Just one episode, right? So far?
It's 2 episodes.
Okay.
It sounds like the production was terrible on this. They had 2 showrunners that they got rid of, and then they hired Benson and Morehouse, who I quite love, who have done a bunch of indie features and were brought on for Moon Knight. They are super talented. I think they took existing footage and shot new footage, created 2 new episodes, straight up new.
Jesus.
And then a bunch of new ones later in the season, I think.
Yeah.
But I think they have creative control of the series and used pre-existing footage to kind of tell a slightly new narrative where it's connected more to Daredevil Netflix than it was originally intended, where it was kind of a side story. Is it part of the Prime universe or not type of thing?
Interesting.
Which is all to say,
kind of messy.
I love Daredevil. No, like at least I don't know where it's going to go in episode 3, but I loved episode 1 and 2. Like it felt like the Netflix Daredevil with a little more of a Marvel sheen and a bigger budget, but the characters are intact and the journey is intact and the vibe is there. I mean, I love it. So far, I'm really, really enjoying it. And I'm very against this type of IP never-ending media blitz. But I have a soft spot in my heart for Daredevil and for the actor.
Love Daredevil. And one of my favorites as a kid growing up, too. It's funny. We're talking about the Born Again. Speaking of biblical and keeping with the theme with the cast here. Is it following the comic time, like that comic book storyline at all? I felt like it feels like it's not to me, but
I don't remember. What's the setup for the comic again?
Born Again comic series details Daredevil's descent to insanity and destitution at the Kingpin's hands, as well as subsequent struggle to build a new life for himself.
Yeah, it could be. I'm only 2 in.
Okay.
But I'll say that I'm happy with it so far. And if you are a fan of Soups on TV, at least the first 2 episodes have so far been enjoyable.
Yeah, I feel like like the Born Again comic. I'm going to reread it before I start watching it, but I'm pretty sure he just gets the shit beat out of him in this one. He's just like can't figure out. He's just like kind of brought down. It's like his kryptonite moment type of thing where he's just born again, right? And he figures it all out and kind of.
I mean, they are doing kind of that like refusal of the call, the Spider-Man no more type of thing. That's certainly part of it. And is the setup? I don't know how far it's going to go or not go with that.
Okay.
Anyway, thumbs up there.
Cool. I'll check it out. What else? What else you got? Anything?
That's it.
I love it. Easy breezy, beautiful.
Easy breezy, beautiful.
What have I been watching, reading? I know you asked.
Russ, what have you been watching and reading?
Thanks, Tim. I'm like 50 pages away from finishing that Ghost in the Wires story about Kevin Mitnick, the hacker from the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty fascinating. I read it because I was interested in it, but also reading just for, seeing how hackers kind of get around the world. And it's fascinating that it's mostly just social engineering from his story, which is still a thing, definitely, for hacking into systems. And that's what phishing scams all are for, right? About sending an email to someone and convincing them something to click on a link. So, but this one, he does a lot of like calling, pretending to be someone to get one bit of information to then use to call someone else to get the next bit of information. And he'd build this profile of information about companies, phone companies mostly, because that's what he was using to hack into. And just wild. Wild's the stuff that people would just give up if they felt confident and comfortable with you being confident and comfortable with who you were and saying like the right things. Like, this is Dan down at engineering. I need a TCP on the IPP, blah blah blah, and like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. I can give them a password or something. So
interesting. What was the time frame that this was happening?
It was like a late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s. But he was being chased by the FBI, and just like his stories of like him eluding them, and like very early like hacker days, internet days.
That's cool.
Most of his hacking he was doing was just through phone companies. He was originally just doing just to get in for the quote unquote lull/trophy. It wasn't any monetary. He just was like that he could do it and breaking into those systems very early on, especially phone companies, using phone companies for like free calls and like just all this sort of stuff. It's pretty fascinating. So
cool.
Yeah. So I'm almost done with that. I'll probably finish it today. And I am progressing through Critical Mass by Tim Ledney. So
very like an NFT right now. Nobody else gets to see it.
Nobody else gets to, just me. It's so valued because of supply demand. It's I say, what a difference. I mean, last time I read it was a couple of years ago now at this point.
Yeah, probably a year or 2.5 years ago.
We'll work in drafts. A lot of drafts ago.
8 drafts ago.
Much cleaner. Word choice, movement, stuff like that. So I'm still early. Once I finish this other book, I'm gonna
I'm happy. Wouldn't that be terrible if it wasn't any better?
Oh God.
There's always the fear that you're just kind of pushing sand and moving words around, but nothing's really changing.
I mean, it was a while ago since I read it, but I have memories of it, and it just feels tighter, feels cleaner. So
yeah, I took so much stuff out, dude. So many tens of thousands of words.
It's good.
Adding tens of thousands of words.
So that's pretty much it for
thanks for reading.
Yeah, no problem. That's pretty much it for reading. Outside of that, on the docket I have after I get through those two is Between Two Fires. It's a self-published book given to me by a friend. It's like a fictional horror, which I'm kind of
cool.
Yeah, so I'll send along once I finish it. Watching, I finished Silo season 2. It was fun. I liked it. It's the ending of it was definitely very like ... season 3, but
did they find another new silo at the end?
No.
Oh, okay,
I don't want to spoil it too much, but
they found water somewhere probably.
No, there's always been water.
Oh, there's been water. Okay.
Yeah, there's always water way down the bottom of the silo. So
I bet they find an area of the world that's green.
Not yet, at least.
Okay.
Not yet, but
all right.
I think so. That'll probably happen at some point. That's what everyone's wishing for. So
like the rain in Dune.
So that was I finished that, and I started last night Slow Horses with Gary Oldman, based on the novels by Mick Herron. I think it's on Apple TV. 5, I think there were like 4 seasons, 3 or 4 seasons of it.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, recommended to me by a friend. I had also read the book, which I enjoyed. Basically, just like a group that is, I would call an offshoot of MI5, MI6, but they're kind of like the bad news bears of MI6 or MI5, you know? And they're kind of where all the shitty grunt work goes. And they don't really take anything too serious. And then the guy who's running it, Gary Oldman, is kind of like, just get back to your jobs. We do nothing here of importance, but you can see where that setup kind of sends them.
Then they do.
And then they do. So, so watching that, which I had read just the first book in the series, which it feels like it's following pretty closely too. So,
you know how many books are in the series?
I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Check it out. Would you recommend it?
I would. Yeah. I think it's gonna be like a thriller, a little more slow paced thriller, but it's good. I liked it.
Well, Oldman's phenomenal. So
yeah. And that's pretty much it for me. I'm like one batarang toss away from finishing Batman Arkham Knight. So.
Oh, I saw you playing that. That's a great game.
It is. I get to a point with some of these games though. Like this is an older one at this point, but like beautiful game and fun stuff to play around with. But I get to a point now where like some of the gameplay mechanics are just stupid and I hate it. And I feel like I'm playing like an arcade game and I'm like, What am I doing right now? Why am I Batmobiling through a tunnel and I got to dodge thing? Why are these things in this tunnel like this?
Yeah,
who builds tunnels like this? Yeah, like why this is not real.
Who builds tunnels? Yeah.
Who builds tunnels like this and has like brackets hanging from the wall like this and giant like all right. So I'm just and I feel like I'm an errand boy, which I don't like doing in video games anymore. So I'm just going to unless it's Red Dead Redemption, but other than that,
yeah, there's times and it's very few and far between, but where the side quest actually adds to the main story or provides some kind of character piece. And thinking about video game writing, like I really, really appreciate it. Once again, it's when I feel like my time's being valued. Not only am I getting an item, as opposed to just like following somebody to a town to like literally deliver a package and ride a horseback. Like, I don't know.
Early Assassin's Creed. Damn you.
Oh, yeah.
Like you kind
of Red Dead's amazing. The most recent Final Fantasy was great in that regard. Kingdom Come Deliverance and Deliverance 2 were very good. Witcher 3, phenomenal side quests, sometimes better than the main quest.
Yeah. Because it sends you on something that it's actual, like almost a sub story, not just like a task, right? Like,
and then it feels like a little Netflix episode. Like you had a little 30-minute jaunt that mattered, as opposed to like going to do the dishes. Yeah, like an LA Noire where like. God,
I love that game. But
it's a great game. But my wife was like, "What are you doing? Taxes?" It's like going through files and.
Yeah, I think with the Arkham Knight, like there's some aspects I really enjoy. Like the Riddler stuff is always fun because like there's like mini puzzles you're just solving, which that's fun to me, right? Using all the tools you have in the environment to like solve a puzzle to get the thing. The other ones where it's like you're going to chase the penguin down, it's like kind of rinse and repeat type of missions where like, all right, Two-Face, I got to go clear these guys on the bank and I got to do this 3-4 times and then I get them. All right, done. Yeah. But then the gameplay mechanics for some, it's just like, this isn't fun. Like I got to swing around and I don't want to do this. So I'm just going to finish the story. I get to make more interesting games who have better storylines to play,
I'd love to have a superhero movie that did that well. Like I love those Spider-Man games, but those side quests stink. They're boring. Go save a cat, go jump through a hoop, go do a race. They don't add anything to it. It's just a time sink.
Yeah. I will say this.
Adds out the game.
The story for Arkham Knight is good, though. There's some stakes. Characters are dying, which I'm like, okay, cool. It's pretty dark. So, but yeah, that's it. So,
cool.
We're done here, right? We
read the writing on the wall.
The writing is on the wall.
We are overstaying our welcome.
Doom will be impending if we continue on. So, that's our episode. Thanks for listening. We'll be back. Our next episode, we're going to get into violence in writing.
Violence in writing, because we're doing a little swap right now where I'm not using much this time around on the new piece, and you are stepping into it. So.
Yeah, more of it, definitely. And we can talk. And I should be a pretty good chunk away through yours, so it'll be interesting because you're finishing mine, and we can talk
about... my last one's violent.
Yeah, and we can talk about the differences in how we both use it, and then in our current work too. So
yeah, genre expectations. It's interesting because you're kind of in the same genre, but taking a different approach this time.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas I guess I'm in the same genre, but the subgenre is now different. Is your subgenre different?
No, not really. No. Techno
mine
thriller.
Very much is.
Mine. So I'm sticking there, and it's kind of falls in that same category, but just a little more action just because of the character choices. But we'll get into it.
Yeah.
So
love it.
If you enjoyed this, share with a friend. If you are listening to us somewhere, follow us. Right? Follow us on that podcast and give us a review. 5 stars. Yeah. Just a little hey
4 or 5 stars. We'll take them.
We'll take that.
And honestly, if you enjoyed hearing Russ's voice, go buy Host. It's good.
Yes,
you can find that information for his book on the website as well.
Audiobook is not done by me, but is coming soon.
Oh, is it coming?
Yeah, it's slowly coming, but it's coming. So
nice.
Yeah. So if you want all of our episodes and contact information to reach out to us, you can visit us at writersyndrome.com.